Welcome to a tutorial on how to draw the Biohazard symbol inside of the open source vector graphics tool called Inkscape. This tutorial will assume that you have Inkscape installed and that you have some experience working with it. One of the fun things about drawing this symbol is it uses Inkscape's ability to work with intersections of shapes. And we're going to use that to create this particular symbol, and we're going to do it to spec. If the Wikipedia article is to be believed, there is actually a specification for how the symbol is supposed to be drawn. It's based on a federal regulation in the United States that's apparently now defunct. Not everybody uses it because you can see the Unicode symbol doesn't seem to follow exactly this spec, but hey, there's a spec for drawing it. Let's see if we can do that. Before we do it though, let's take a close look at the symbol. I want you to notice that there are effectively 9 different circles interlaced here. At the largest scale, there are 3 big circles sitting here. 1, 2, and 3. And these definitely don't have to be very clean because we're going to do all of that in Inkscape. And then inside of these are cutouts. 1, 2, and 3. So there's 6 of our 9 circles right there. Then inside that symbol is this ring. So we have 2 circles, the outside of the ring and the inside of the ring. And then a plug taken out of the middle of the symbol right there. So 9 circles in all, 3 in the middle, and 2 for each of the lobes on the symbol here. In addition, we'll just note that there are cutouts. There's a cutout up here, and then of course one right here, here, and then the cutouts in the center of the symbol. So we got to get all of those, and there's dimensions on all of this. So we're going to try and get those dimensions correct as we work through the symbol. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and pulled the symbol over into Inkscape. We're not going to outline it. We're actually going to work with the dimensions and draw it over to the side. Now we are working with Inkscape 0.92, which was the current version at the time this was recorded in the spring of 2020 in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is why this symbol just seemed apropos, if you will. What I want to do is start with a reference circle, and I want that reference circle to be roughly the diameter of the entire symbol. And since this biggest circle here has a diameter of h, which is 30, I'm fairly certain that a circle with a diameter of 60 will be sufficient. Now we aren't given the units, and hey, this is vector graphics. The units don't matter. We can do it in any unit and then scale it to whatever we want. I currently have it configured where the base units are millimeters, so that's what we're going to work with. So I'm just going to go over here to the circle tool, and we're going to draw a circle. Not even going to worry initially about whether it's actually a circle or not. I know the dimensions that I want, so I'm going to go ahead and set those. I want it to be a diameter of 60. So that's what I'm going to set here. In fact, let's go ahead and get it complete circle by setting both a width and a height. There we go. So we got a circle with a diameter of 60. Going to do a few other things on the fill. I want to go ahead and go black with the fill, but I'm going to bring the opacity down to about 20%. It'll become clear as we go on why we're doing that. Now this circle is the basis for everything. It's going to be the center of the symbol. That's going to be important because the center is going to feel like it moves around as we add these other things, but the center of this circle is the center of the symbol. It'll also be a great place for us to grab and duplicate circles as we need them, because we've got lots of circles to do all over the place here. Before we get going though, we need these center points here and here. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's start with the inner center right here. We're given a dimension for that, the dimension E, which is 11, which means we need a circle of radius 22 to reach this particular center right there. So we'll just duplicate this circle right here. We'll lock this so that the dimensions stay, so that the width and the height stay together. And we said we needed a circle of dimension 22, or diameter 22. And now what we're going to do is center this circle back onto the reference circle. Like I said, this is our basis for everything. So I already had the smaller circle selected. I selected the bigger circle on align and distribute. notice that I have the align relative to the last selected object. That means whatever I select last is the thing that won't move. Or to think of it a different way, I want to move this circle. I'm holding the shift key and clicking here on top of that circle. So we'll just center it right there in the center. But I need this reference point right here. So the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create a little horizontal line. I'm holding the control key to guarantee that this is perfectly horizontal. Just double click to get the end. I'm going to grab that line, and I want that line to be centered with the vertical axis of this circle and sitting right on the top. So there we go. We have the first center right here. Now, unfortunately, I also need it down here and over here. And the way I'm going to deal with that, I've got to rotate something around. And the problem is, what do you rotate around? And I want to rotate around the center of the circle. That can turn out to be more complicated than you'd like sometimes. But the way I'm going to handle that is I'm going to select the circle. I'm going to select the line. I'm going to duplicate these, Control D to duplicate. And then I'm going to use the transform tool and rotate to rotate 120 degrees clockwise. I'm going to apply that, and now I have a little center reference over here. The center of that line is the center of where I want my circle to be. I've got two circles in the middle. I'm just going to delete the one that's there. So I'm going to grab the circle and the line, and I'm going to do it again. Duplicate them, but this time I'm going to rotate 120 degrees counterclockwise. Boom. There we go. We've got our centers in place. Now you might ask why I didn't just grab this over here and rotate it another 120 degrees around. For some strange reason inside of Inkscape that starts to do things you don't want, but to get the perfect 120 degrees, if I just go back to the original and rotate the other direction, that works. So that gets me these inside center points, but now I need that outside center point. And I'm given a dimension there of F. That's a dimension, that's a radius of 15, so it's a diameter of 30. So I'm just going to grab this center circle and change its diameter to 30. There we go, but now we need it centered again. So again, grab that reference circle and center everything up. Same thing, only this time I've got some little lines here, so I can just grab this one. I'm going to duplicate it, and I want it sitting on top of the reference circle. But now I got to rotate it around, so same routine as before. Duplicate, rotate clockwise 120 degrees. There we are. Grab the circle, duplicate, rotate it 120 degrees the other way. Bingo. Again, I'm just deleting the superfluous circle out of the middle. All right, so now I have my center set up. So I have those inner centers and the outer centers, and we can start adding in the main circles that will be part of this drawing. So let's start with the outside lobes right here. The width of that outside lobe is this dimension H, which is dimension of 30. And it turns out I have a circle with a diameter of 30, and we'll just use it to start with. So I want that circle right there to be centered on the inside center point, so this point right here. So we want this circle, I'm holding the shift key, centered on that line, and I'll simply hit the center. And there we are, we got it centered. Now I'm going to grab the center circle, duplicate it, and I want another copy right here. Again, just center it down there. Grab it one more time, duplicate it, centered right here. There we go. So we've got the outer lobes of the circle. Now let's work on the inner lobes. The inner lobes have a diameter of dimension G, which is 21. We'll just grab a circle, duplicate it, go ahead and change the diameter to 21. And then this circle right here, I'm going to pull it to the side, it has to be centered on the outside center here. That one right there. So we're going to go ahead and center it up there. I'm going to duplicate it, Control D. Center it on the outside center down here. I didn't get it. Let's try that again. we're running into a problem. And the problem is that these circles are actually on top of my lines. I'm gonna solve that problem by selecting the circles right here, as well as the outside circle. And effectively what I'm gonna do is say that I want all of these objects lowered down to the bottom, which you'll notice is the end key. But I'll lower those down, and now I should be able to select the center over here. Yep, there we go. So duplicated circle, I need it centered over here. There we are. Grab it one more time, duplicate it, and center it over here. Now Inkscape has a way to deal with the selection issue. Unfortunately, the Windows Manager that I use reserves that key for something else, so I can't do that as easily. Okay, so there we go. Now we're really starting to get that basic shape. We've got the main lobes, and we've got the main cutout for each of those lobes. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and apply that cutout. You'll see how this circle needs to be cut out of this circle here. But I want you to notice something, and this is what's unique about this symbol. This inner circle actually doesn't just cut out the circle it's inside of, it also overlaps with the circle on either side of it. So there's a little bit of an intersection here, and it needs to cut that out as well. So I'm going to have to duplicate this a couple times to do all the cutting that we need to do. So I'm going to take this circle, I'm going to cut from this circle, I'm going to duplicate it again, cut from this circle, and then the last time I don't need to duplicate it, and I'll cut out from that circle right there. So let's do that. Duplicate, I'm going to cut from here, and what I'm essentially doing is path difference, but notice that the key is Control minus. I'm going to use that in the future just as a quick shortcut to do that. So we'll go ahead and do a difference. Now it might look like there hasn't been any change, but watch what happens if I pull this shape over. Notice how it's cut out a piece right there, which is exactly what we want. So I'm doing Control Z undo just to drop it back. So we're going to do this again. Control D. I'm going to pick this. Remember, it's Control minus to do the difference. And just out of curiosity, sure enough, there we go. We got the shape that we're looking for. And then the last time I don't need to duplicate because I'm just taking that circle and I'm cutting out the lobe that it sits inside of. Control minus for the difference, and there we go. And notice this last shape. That's looking kind of interesting right there. It's the circle inside of a circle. Now we do need to do the same thing with these two cutouts here. So I grab that. Again, it's going to cut out from all the circles around it. Duplicate, cut out over here. Duplicate, cut out over here. Duplicate, cut out right here. Now we're starting to see something that looks about the way we want. I just want to see that shape again. Cool. Last one. Grab this, duplicate, cut out from here. Duplicate, cut out from here. Duplicate, and cut out from here. Oops. I didn't need that last duplication, so we will just select and then cut out from here. And there we go. It's really starting to take shape. But notice what we have. It's 3 shapes of a very unusual arrangement, all lined up perfectly with each other. In fact, at this point, we'd just as well have all of these be one piece. You're seeing the different colors because the opacity is there and they're overlapping. So what I'm going to do now is take all 3 of the shapes, this one here, this one here, this one here, and we're going to go ahead and do the union of all of these, which is basically to say whatever any of the shapes cover, put that all together into one single path, and boom, there we go. So now we have one thing that looks like this right here. Now the next thing we need to do is the cutouts, and notice that the cutouts have dimensions on them. So we got to cut a piece out up here, and it's given a dimension of C, so that's a dimension of 4. So how are we going to do that? I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to grab a line. I'm holding the control button again to get either a perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical line, and I'm going to draw a vertical line. And I want this line to be centered on my reference square. Now I'm going to do something with this particular line. If I zoom in on this and I go over here and grab the tool that lets me edit the paths, you'll notice that it has just one point up at the end. I just got one point to work with right there, and it just moves the end of the line. What I really need is for this line to be a shape, because I need to give it a width that will cut out of something else. To do that, I'm going to use path stroke to path. Essentially what that says is turn a line into a very thin rectangle. Let's do that, and notice how now I have two little points. I can actually grab one and do weird things to what used to be a line. But what I really want to do is, having grabbed that line, I simply want to change its width. So based on what we got on the dimension over here, I seem to recall dimension C is 4. So we want a width of 4. Now it's not centered. We hit shift, we hit the circle, and we line it up. The other thing that would be helpful is, again, it's nice to be able to have the opacity on here where we can see things as they overlap. Now I don't just need to cut out right here, I also need to cut out over here and over here, and by now we know that rotating this is the right way to do it. And I notice I have it evenly spaced, so it'll rotate right around the center of this circle. So I'm going to grab that particular bar, I'm going to duplicate it, we're going to rotate it clockwise 120 degrees, grab it again, duplicate it, and rotate it counterclockwise 120 degrees. So now we have our cutouts. Now to do a cutout, what we would normally do is we would grab the piece we want to cut with and hold shift and select the piece we want to cut, and then we would come over here and do path, and we would do difference like we were doing before. The only problem is I don't want to cut all that out, I just want to cut out this piece here. So what I'm going to do is something slightly different. I am going to grab the circle tool, and I'm just going to draw a circle around the area that we want to cut out, and then I'm going to grab the bar, and what I want at this point is what's called the intersection. I want the spot, notice it's Control star, I want the spot where these two, the circle and the bar, intersect with each other. So if I do that, what I will get, I grab this, I do the intersection, and what we get is something that looks like this right here. And now I can just grab the main shape, Control minus to do the difference, and boom, there we have our cutout. Same thing down here. Circle around the area that matters. Go ahead and get the intersection. Now take the difference. Boom. One more time. Circle. Intersection. And difference. Now we got our cutouts. Really starting to take shape here. We have a circle in the middle that we need to cut out, as well as these little cuts here. Let's start with the circle in the middle. We're given a dimension of D, so that's a circle of diameter 6. I'm going to grab this outside circle. I'm going to duplicate it, and we're going to give it a diameter of 6. I'm locking the dimensions so width and height are the same again. Keep it a perfectly round circle. So a width of 6, and once again we got to get it centered right here. Having done that, it's very simple. We just want to do a cutout, which is the difference again. Boom, there we are. Now we need the cutout here, and we know how to do that. Let's check the dimension. We're given the dimension right here as being a dimension of 1. So I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. Vertical line. I'm going to center that line on the circle right here. We're going to go ahead and convert the line from a stroke to a path. That then will allow us to give it, we're going to select that. We're going to give it a width of 1. We're going to recenter it with the circle. And again, just so we can kind of watch things, we're going to go ahead and put the opacity down at about 20%. Duplicate, rotate, duplicate, rotate, and now we're going to do that same thing where we're going to go right into the region we care about. we want the intersection of that with the bar. Control Shift star, and then take a difference, Control minus. Repeat here. Control star for the intersection, then Shift select what we want to cut out of and Control minus for the difference. Last one. Intersection and difference. Bingo. There we have it. So we now have the main part of the symbol in place. We just need that inner ring. Now there are a couple of complications here. The first is it's not immediately obvious what the dimensions for this ring are. I'm not going to go through the details here, but if you sort out these various dimensions as they're drawn over here, this has an inner dimension. The circle on the inside is a diameter of 10, and I'm sorry, is a diameter of 20, a radius of 10, and on the outside it's a diameter of 27. So we just need two circles. We're going to go ahead and grab this again, get us a duplicated version of it, lock width and height together, 27, center it up with this circle here. We'll do it again, duplicate, this time 20, reference circle, center it up, and we just want to do a difference. Subtract one from the other. Now the second complication. We need to do a cutout from this inside ring like you see here. Some people who are familiar with Inkscape are tempted to grab this main shape, duplicate it, and you'll know that we have this option to do an outset on the path, and you can use that to cut with. The problem is that that outset works kind of wonky, just two outsets, and it's looking very weird. And we were actually given a dimension right here. We were told that the cut on that particular spot is dimension A, which is a unit of 1, and the outset doesn't allow us to do an exact amount. So we need to find a different way to do this. How are we going to do that? Well, we happen to know that this inside circle cutout was dimension G, which was 21 units, a diameter of 21. And we know that we need to step in 1. 1 on the radius equals 2 on the diameter. So rather than a circle of 21, we need a circle of 19. Trust me on this, you'll see here in just a moment. I'm going to duplicate this circle. We're going to get a diameter of 19. And now we want to center that circle on the original center of this inside cutout here. And notice how that lines up almost perfectly with what we want to take out of the ring. So now we have a circle of 19. We're going to go ahead and duplicate it and move it to each of the other spots that we need it. We need it down here. Duplicate it again. And we need it over here. So we got to use these circles to get cutouts of the ring right here. Now, one problem is, for one thing, it's going to be a little bit hard to select the ring. But if I do get the ring and I grab one of the circles, what I want is I want to keep where the ring overlaps the circle. So that is this intersection right here. But if I do that, I lose the rest of the ring. So I'm going to have to duplicate the ring. So let's do that. I'm going to select the inside ring. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to select the circle and Control Shift star to get the intersection. It's not immediately obvious what we've achieved here, but I've got a perfect little piece, and we'll see how the rest of this works out. Grab the ring again, duplicate it, grab the circle, and I want the intersection. The last time we don't actually need to duplicate the ring. This is the last time we'll need it. Grab the circle and the intersection. And boom, there we have it. We have basically completed the symbol. Let's do a little bit of cleanup here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the symbol pieces as well as my outside reference circle. And again, I'm going to move them to the bottom, lower them down to the bottom. And that's just so I can go in easily and grab each of my little reference lines, which we don't need anymore, and get rid of them. There we go. Now I'm going to grab all of the pieces again. And at this point, we can go ahead and start playing with the fill, and all we're going to do is get rid of the opacity. There we go. And with all of this together, we're going to go ahead and group them together. By grouping them together, I can grab the whole symbol now, but I want it to stay in the center. And then I will grab the reference circle, and maybe we could go with like an orange there. Remove the opacity, and boom. There we have it. The Biohazard symbol to Spec.